The top left here, I wanted to summarize some of the IoT trends that we're seeing here. And these are really the trends that are underlying why the FDA is starting to impose regulations, especially with their refuse to accept in that October deadline that's coming up on us fast. And the first part of that is really the software, the complexity of your software. The number of lines of code that you have in software is rapidly increasing. All of that additional functionality that's making these tremendously capable and advanced medical devices means that you have more software. More software means more bugs that you didn't know about when you designed your system, and some of those bugs may be a vulnerability that an attacker can exploit. And so that is creating a challenge for us. Of course, you can address some of that through good coding practices, testing methods, having good, secure development processes put in place. But the bugs will still make it out there. You're never going to catch them all before you deploy your device. The second trend we're seeing is you just have more devices. The devices are being deployed more broadly. There's more users for them. They're more out there. So the bigger that threat that you have, the more devices, the more functionality, the larger of a target that you have. And that typically means that if your devices are being very widely deployed, you're a bigger target for attackers, so a higher security risk. You would want to think about higher security requirements, really tailoring that to the systems that you have. We're seeing widely adopted technology. Open source is an example, Linux, Android, even just a simple Ethernet stack. These are well understood. They're critical functionalities you would want to have within your systems to make the development faster. They're standard techniques, but that means attackers they understand these technologies very well. They're monitoring the vulnerabilities themselves so they can develop and deploy attacks. They have advanced tools for scanning and trying to penetrate systems. So it's really this cat and mouse game, and those widely deployed technologies does increase the impact there. Of course, security for each of those can help mitigate that. On the positive side, device manufacturers who are making the silicon, the processors, they're providing really good security resources that are inside the chip. Those can help make sure your design is secure. They can accelerate the encryption, the authentication algorithms you may need. So they're doing a really good job of enabling security at the hardware level to facilitate that. And then that can then help extend into your system. So two things you would see there often would be called HSM, a hardware security module. Think of this as having dedicated cores just for security operations. Or on lower-end microcontrollers, you might have technologies such as Trust Zone, which allows you to isolate in a trusted manner a critical functionality of your system. We know about supply chain attacks that are happening. This is large part driving why we have SBOMs and trying to track what's in your software and look for vulnerabilities. We've seen many examples of supply chain attacks in the wild. This is something that you would want to be consider. And the other thing is, of course, the skills gap. There's an estimate of about 400,000 unfilled cybersecurity positions in North America alone. So with the growth of these IoT systems, the need to secure them, and then the regulations that accelerate adding that security, the demand for talent of the cybersecurity expertise is a challenge. We do think that's where automation can help. For basic, well-understood cybersecurity requirements, you can use automation to help implement that, which should reduce your engineering time and effort by half. The other trend we're seeing is attacks. We talked about that earlier today in terms of attacks growing at 300% year over year on healthcare systems. And more broadly in IoT, that number is about 500% year over year. And as you see more and more medical devices, I think you'll see similar levels of attacks affecting healthcare systems as well. We have a list of prominent attacks. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I want to point out that in often cases, some of the attacks may be on the life-critical medical devices themselves, but they're not always that case. What the attackers are often looking for is the weakest link. They're looking for that unsecured ventilator that lets them get into the hospital IT infrastructure, and then they can attack the hospital IT. So it's like a pivot point. They're looking for the weakest link to pivot into another system, and then usually at the hospital level, it then turns into a ransomware attack. because many attackers are highly motivated by making money off of this, and they're one of the bigger threats that's affecting healthcare.